What's up, fam? It's your girl Alexandria B with Wall Street Ben Black, and today we are going to talk all things stock map, heat map, periodic table of the stock market, whatever you want to call it. It is a beautiful visual representation of what is going on in the market. Not everybody likes to read the news and search through all of those articles, which you should, but that's okay. If you're not there yet or you plan to never be, they created the stock map for you, which is going to give you that same information if you know how to use it. But y'all already know your girl is going to show you how to use it. So what the website that I pull mine up on is FinViz. When you click on it and you're on the home page, I'll actually show you. When you come to the website, you'll see this stock map right here on the right hand side of your screen. Click on it, you can come right there, or you can just click maps here at the top. Now, right now, I am not signed in into the paid version of this site because I wanted you all to see what it looks like on the free version side as well. This site, I'll say 70% of it you could use without paying for it. Now, the elite version is worth it. It's worth it if you're going to use it, which is about $35 a month. So with the free version, of course, we're going to see some ads pop up a lot, but that's okay. Let's go ahead and hop into it. So when you pull it up by default, the stock map is going to show you the S&P 500. So you see that here. The S&P 500 only has 500 companies inside of this index. So if we wanted to see a full version of this stock map, which is going to be all the stocks across the market, we would click on full here in the US. We'd click on full, and so you can see here, let's have a reference point. So I'll go back to the S&P 500, and if we're looking at this square right here, which I'll break down in a second, we see about 10 tickers in there. If I click on full, we see about 50 tickers in here, all right? So keep that in mind. By default, it's gonna pull up to show you the S&P 500. When we are looking at this heat map, it is going to be divided into sectors, and then those sectors are then broken down into different industries. So the stock market has 11 different sectors, all right? And these are the bigger, the larger names that you see in white. So the technology sector, when we travel down, we have the financial sector. Going back up, communication services, consumer cyclical, consumer defensive, industrials, healthcare, real estate, utilities, energy, and basic materials, all right? Those are the 11 sectors. Now, inside of each sector, because this entire square here is the technology sector, inside of that sector, it then gets broken down into industries, right? So if I hover over this square here, this is where you see in the yellow, this is the software infrastructure industry. So inside of this industry, we're going to have Microsoft, Oracle, Adobe, Palo Alto Networks, Synopsys, Global Payments, names that you might have heard before, right? Now, if we move on over, we have consumer electronics. As you see here, the only the only company that is in this industry is Apple. Remember though, my babies, this by default is set to show you the S&P 500. Again, if I click on full and we come to consumer electronics, we also have Sony, Vizio, Vuzi, and all these other names that you just be like, what? LG Display, Vuzix, all these other names that's in this consumer electronics across the whole map. All right, then we have the software application. So this is where we're going to get into Salesforce, CRM. Y'all have heard of that. Uber, don't get lost in the sauce now, all right? Intuit, Roper, blah, blah, blah. Semiconductors, because we all know about the semiconductor industry, leading with NVIDIA, Broadcom, AMD, Qualcomm, INTC, which is Intel, Micron, Analog Devices, and so on. So that's how it gets broken down. That is the number one most important thing for you to understand when you're looking at this. There's 11 sectors, but there are several different industries inside of that sector. I think it's absolutely beautiful that they did that for us because let's keep it real. Let's say that you see that the semiconductors is booming right now. Everybody's trading them. It's very volatile, meaning that it's going to have large movements, right? A lot of volume. It's also pretty expensive to trade right now. It's expensive to own it and it's expensive to trade it, especially if you're doing options trades. That's okay. Guess what? Look inside of the industry and then find their affordable competitor. Now, if you're looking at the sizes of the box in here, the larger the box is, the larger the market capitalization is. So when we're looking in the semiconductors industry that is inside of the technology sector, all right, we see that NVIDIA has the largest market capitalization for semiconductors. Next up is AVGO, which is Broadcom Incorporated. Then we're going to have AMD, Qualcomm, about the same market capitalization, INTCMU same, right? And then on down. So again, when we are looking here in the software infrastructure industry, Microsoft has the largest market capitalization, where if we look way down here at F5, it has the smallest market capitalization of the software infrastructure industry. All right. Now, the next thing that we want to pay attention to, and again, just looking at how it's laid out by default, is here we see the one-day performance. So this is showing me the performance of the S&P 500 on Friday, because today is Sunday as I'm recording this video for you all. Happy Mother's Day again. So the duller the color, the less bearish or bullish it was, right? So we see that this is bright green, Broadcom. They were up 2% for the day. 2.8% for the day. Micron is real bright green, and on Friday it moved up 2.91% for the day. Versus NVIDIA is a little duller green, right? Look, kind of like a hunter green in there, and it was up 1.27% for the day, right? So the duller the color, kind of like the less bullish or bearish it was, the brighter the color, okay? So we can see here that the brightest red that is on our map is in between Tesla, which closed the day 2.4% down, Nike, which closed 2.6% down, GE Godspeed, which closed 2.46% down. Then we have this little bitty company right here, Akamai. ACAM is the ticker, right? Closed 11% down. Ooh, we got a bright red one over here as well in biotechnology industry. Moderna down 4%. Jesus. Amen. All right, so we want to look there. Now, we also have here where you can do a quick search for a ticker. Let's say you can't remember what sector is KO in. You can type in KO, click it, and it highlights it for you right here. This is in the consumer defensive sector, but in the beverages non-alcoholic industry. All right, so that's how we use that on the default settings, and let's maneuver on and look at the rest of it because there are gems all up and through this heat map. But before we do that, I did show y'all that it's set for the one-day performance. I look at it during the day, of course, because I want to see what's most bullish, what's most bearish. Kind of gives me directional bias. But I absolutely look at the 1 week performance on the weekends when I'm getting prepared for the week. And baby, all in all, don't let that one-day performance fool you. We had a very green week across the market. Now, of course, there's some outliers. Disney. All right. And so when I'm looking at this and I see that 80 to 90% of the market was bullish, and I see these bright red things, I'm tuning in on that. And that's going to make me say, well, what happened with Disney? Now you're going to have to go look it up. Okay. But it's going to lead you somewhere. What happened with Tesla? And Ford was a little bit down too, or Ford was down 3.54% over the week as well. What's going on with the auto manufacturers industry right now? All right, so I use it in that sense, and you can also look at it 1 month, 3 months, the 1 year performance year to date, which is going to be the top of the fiscal year. So the first trading day in January to where we are now, May 12th. If we look there. And then you can also do it based off of different financial metrics. Now, I actually really like to look at it for, turn it on for shorts. I like to look around here and see what's going on with the shorts. Interesting. All right, y'all shorten this down. I like to look, and you not for the shorts. I'm looking at the bright red because eventually you're going to find the bottom. And guess who's going to trade that right on back up? Amen? All right, so let's go ahead and put this back on the 1 day performance. And so we saw what the full looks like, and then let's click on world. So when we go to world, because the stock market doesn't just exist here in the US, it's everywhere, okay? So if we look here, and I'm gonna go ahead and put it on the 1 week performance because today's Sunday. I don't care about just Friday. We can see that Japan Let's just go ahead and say that Asia, with the exception of Taiwan Semiconductor, had a bearish week. But the manufacturer of semiconductors is doing well. That's a supply chain rabbit hole, my babies. That's a supply chain rabbit hole right there. Now, I do want to say that Baba has earnings this coming up week as well. All right. So from looking at this, we can see who had the best week is really Switzerland. Go figure, right? Canada did really well. We can see that Brazil did not have the best week, right? So it's just a way that we can look at it that way. And then I definitely like to look at the year-to-date performance. And oh my goodness, Taiwan Semiconductor, and then New Holdings, which just absolutely amazing years. 43% up, 43% since January, baby. It's only May 12th. All right, amen. So now let's go ahead and click over here for the exchange traded funds, our ETFs. And I'm going to stay on the year-to-date performance with this, honestly, because when I'm looking at this, of course, I do trade these for options trades as well, but I'm all on this for investing. Okay, so let's see how it's broken down. So we have the into sectors and industries a little bit, but y'all understand how to read the sectors into the industries. So it's calm down as you're looking over here at the ETFs map. All right, so here we have the US index. It says it right there. So of course we have SPY and QQQ, the most traded ETFs, right? We also have DIA for the Dow, IVV for the, it's fairly similar to SPY, right? We have VTI. I prefer the Vanguard over the S&P 500 for my investment portfolio. That's just me. Do your due diligence, all right? And I'm also able to look at the leveraged ETFs, right? Because we know that QQQ and TQQQ move the same, all right? Now, when we're looking at QQQ year to date, it's up, we'll just say 8%, but TQQQ is up almost 17%. And it's more affordable. All right, now I keep doing little licks at y'all. Y'all picking up what I'm putting down? And then we're also going to have the inverse of our index ETFs, right? So QQQ and TQQQ look the same on the chart, and SQQQ is the exact, it's inverted. And I'm actually going to go ahead and pull up those charts so I can show you what they look like. Hold for a brief intermission. All right, so here on the left-hand side, I have QQQ. In the middle, I have TQQQ, and on the right, I have SQQQ. As we can see here, QQQ, and the cursor is on the same place on all three charts. As we can see, QQQ and TQQQ, which is the leverage version of the Qs, move the same. TQQQ is there to act as a hedge, an affordable hedge for when QQQ pulls back. Now we can see on the right-hand side that SQQQ, which just imagine that the S stands for short, all right? Oh, it do. Ultra Pro Short, QQQ. We can see that when we had this long bearish candle on the Qs and TQQQ, we had a long bullish candle up top on SQQQ. So again, it's just used as a hedge when you are holding QQQ, whether we're in a bull market or a bear market. You have two different options there. All right, so we also know that market capitalization is divided into large, mid, and small cap stocks. We can also research those beautifully right here using this heat map. So we have our large cap, mid cap, and small cap here. There are the ones that blend. Now with the small cap tickers, the one that most people know is IWM, which is showing us, as we highlight it, it says it right there. It is the ETF for the Russell 2000, which is the Russell is the index for small cap stocks, right? So we have there. We also have the leveraged one. Now, there's also two different categories for stocks that we could fairly easily divide stocks into, and that's either going to be a value stock or a growth stock. The way that I explain them is a value stock is any company that you have regularly seen in your grandmother's house. Stick with me here. Johnson & Johnson, Procter & Gamble, JP Morgan. Value stocks, they've been around, gonna stay around. They're mature companies. They typically pay out dividends because they have the market capitalization to do so. They have the steady revenue, large revenue, to where they can afford to pay out dividends. A growth company is a cult. Let's just say that. It's expected to outperform the market. Typically, we're going to see growth companies mostly are dominated by the technology sector because technology is outdoing itself every quarter, right? AI, whoever would have known that right, we are where we are, right? So it is important to know the difference between a value and a growth stock because you want to know how you're building your portfolio, right? You might not want too many growth stocks in your portfolio or to be growth stock dominated when a bear market is coming up, right? Because a growth stock is really going to be the first one that we sell off on, but keep those value companies. Now, a value company, typically we're going to see those dominated by the financial sector. My best example is JP Morgan, okay? The Morgans, Vanderbilt, Stanleys built this. Well, no, they didn't. Wall Street been black. Y'all see where I'm going with it though. So we have that as well as inverses there. Now we also have where you can come in and look at the sectors. There are ETFs for each sector. And baby, if y'all know anything about it, if you've ever watched any of my watch lists, you know that I pay attention to those sector ETFs. The basket of companies is always going to show you more than a single company will for what the sector is doing. Don't let that go over your head. Rewind it a couple times. Sit with it. The basket will always show you over an individual company first. Right? So we have for the technology sector, some ETFs we have is XOK, which is the most known sector ETF, as well as we're also going to have SOXL. But this ETF is specifically for, as you can see here, semiconductors. It is the ETF for the semiconductor industry inside of the technology sector. Let me know in the comments, which one do you think, if we're looking to trade Micron, would I look at XOK or SOXL first? Let me know. All right. And then we can just keep going. Of course, I'm going to look at VGT because I prefer the Vanguard. It typically gives a higher return than the S&P 500, but do your due diligence. Absolutely love it. Now it's $516. I didn't say it was affordable, okay? Whereas XOK is $205, right? And then it gets, of course, it just continues to go to whether or not we're looking in the technology sector, over here in the healthcare sector, financials, so on and so on there. Now, we can also look at, down here, we have the fixed income, so the government, right? TLT, the Treasury Bond ETF. Leave it alone. But let me know how it go if you do trade it, all right? We can also look at the international companies. I love to come and look year to date and at the last year performance for the emerging markets, all right? I absolutely come and I check these out because I just want to know what's popping, what's coming up next, and I research those companies and keep my eye on them. We can also look at crypto. Yeah, hey, on Bitcoin, I see an inverted head and shoulder. I see an inverted head and shoulder on Bitcoin. Do your due diligence. But I absolutely come and look in the commodities. I absolutely come and look in the commodities because on the times when the market has a pullback, typically we're going to see that commodities is going to be moving up. Because when we move money out of these individual companies, because we don't necessarily have much faith that they're going to continue to hold up or we're taking profit, you'll see investors move it, especially when the dollar is dropping, right? You see investors tend to move their money over into commodities such as gold, silver, crude oil, all of these things. What's physical gold? Right? We can look at all of those. And so this is how I use the ETF on there. And I have one more thing that I want to show y'all when we look at the bubbles. So right now we're looking at the map, right? Absolutely beautiful. We were able to do a lot of things. If we click over here and we look at the bubbles, the ad will pop up. If you don't pay for the elite version, and that's totally okay, because who wants to anyway? Y'all, it gets real. It gets real. And this is what I love the most. So this is by default settings. We can see here that the x-axis down at the bottom is showing us the sectors, and then the y-axis here on the left-hand side is showing us the percent change in price. So this is set for 1 day performance. And if we look here, way up here at the top, we got two outliers, okay? One of them is MTD, which is in the, when we look down here at the bottom and we're looking to see, well, what's this green one? This is the financial sector, or the healthcare sector, my apologies, because if we hover over it, it'll show us. So MTD is in the healthcare sector. This makes me want to say, wow, a 17% change when the rest of the market stayed in between being down 4% or up 4%. What's going on with MTD? That's going to make me go do some research, as well as looking at GEN. When I look in this, now GEN, this is in the technology sector. It was an outlier as well. So GEN Digital, guess what? A 15% change is going to make me pull this up and see what is going on with this company. Whether it pulls back to go to the rest of the market or the market moves up to go with this, my research off of this heat map will lead me in the right direction. Now for the bubble size, right now it's set for market capitalization, but I can also turn it, and let's say that I wanted to look at it by the volume of the day. All right, and we're actually, let me do reset on here. And we'll do the and do it by volume. This is gonna show me what the volume has been, and it's gonna do it by ticker, right? So of course MTD, just amazing day, this, which is in the healthcare sector. Metler Toledo International, I'm definitely gonna do some research on them in GEN. ANET figured, this is in the communication services sector, Arista Networks. So I'm able to like look at this, and this does update during the day. So this just gives me a visual of that, right? So we'll move it back to the market capitalization. Now, by the sector, by the bubble color, right? I can choose to have it by sector, the industry, the country, market cap. I just go ahead and keep it at the sector. I don't too much change the bubble color for what that is. But this is what I love. You can look at the 4 major indices. So right now, it by default pulls it up for the S&P 500. But what if I only wanted to look at the NASDAQ 100 index, which the NASDAQ 100 index is the top 100 non-financial companies on the market. So it is much more focused than what the S&P 500 is. When I look at the Dow, it is known as the industrial index. So it is the 30, not the 30 largest companies on the market, but it is the 30 companies that run the economy. We could say it like that. And so that would be DJIA, and then Russell 2000 index, we just talked about that. That houses the small cap stocks, right? So I definitely love to come and look at this per index or by index. So looking at the NASDAQ 100, we can see that the outlier is Charter Communications. Don't sleep on them. We cannot sleep on Charter Communications. They were definitely the outlier, 4.4% change. And then again, we see that Moderna down below was the outlier to the bearish side with a negative 4% change. And price, with everything else there, the bubble size is going by the market cap, of course. So this is Apple. I would assume that this is NVIDIA or Microsoft, and NVIDIA, right? The largest 3 in that sector. Technology. And then with the NASDAQ 100, right? Let's say that I'm looking at a particular sector. So this week we have the consumer staples sector is reporting earnings. A lot of companies in there are reporting earnings, particularly Home Depot on Tuesday before hours and Walmart Thursday before hours. So I definitely want to pay attention to that. Now on Finviz, it'll be labeled as consumer defensive. I want to pull this up. All right. So we see these, well, this is just not doing well. And we're actually going to go ahead and put this on the S&P 500, but keep it with the consumer defensive so we get all of them, right? And it's red for consumer defensive, but it's all over the place, right? We got Hershey's way up here at the top. Now, something that absolutely helped me to be able to catch this move on Hershey's is that I was paying attention to the futures, and cocoa took off. It took off. It is doing so well, all-time high and some, right? Of course, I'm going to pull up Hershey's to trade that. Of course, I'm going to pull up Hershey's to trade that, right? Amazing. They're doing amazing. But we see that Walmart has not moved that much. Dollar General, not doing that well. Target, baby, do something. do something at this point, right? So we're able to look at it in that way. And then you can change it by the market capitalization as well. So if we came back over here to the heat map and let's type in Hershey's, right? We type that in. Baby, sometimes I have to, because I know it's in consumer defense, so let's click it again. There we go. Sometimes I have to click it so it'll pop it up. It's in the confectioners industry, and we see Mondelez International. When I tell y'all, go pay attention to MDLZ. Go pay attention to MDLZ, and if you see what I see, let me know in the comments below. But I hope that this video was very helpful to y'all and that you go into this upcoming week utilizing this tool and this resource. It's amazing. I'll see y'all at the top. Bye.